The Empire built a moon-sized battle station twice. It bankrolled a clone army grown in secret, a fleet of 25,000 Star Destroyers, and a war that swallowed an entire galaxy. And in 50 years of Star Wars, almost nobody stops to ask the one question that makes all of it fall apart. Who is actually paying for this? Not the Force. Not Destiny. Credits. Cold, hard credits. Every blaster bolt was bought. Every Star Destroyer was financed. Every clone had a price tag. Today I'm breaking down how the Star Wars economy really works, where the money comes from, who secretly controls it, and why the most powerful regime in galactic history was quietly going broke the entire time. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Starting with the thing every single credit in the galaxy traces back to. Here's what makes the Galactic Credit so strange. It's not the coins. It's not the shiny ingots smugglers stack on a table. It's that for most of galactic history, the credit was backed by nothing you could actually hold. The Galactic Credit Standard was guaranteed by the Republic, which means it was guaranteed by trust and by the banks that printed it. That works fine on Coruscant, where 1 trillion beings agree the number means something. But travel to the outer rim and the whole illusion collapses. Remember Watto, the junk dealer on Tatooine? He looks Qui-Gon Jinn dead in the eye and says it, "Republic credits are no good out here." That one line is the most honest piece of economics in the entire saga. The Jedi mind trick fails. The money fails. Because a currency is only worth what the next being will accept for it, and the further you get from the core worlds, the less the Republic's promise is worth. Out on the rim, they want something real, whoopee-yoopee, peggets, hard metal, or goods you can actually use. A slave, a part, a tank of fuel. This is why the galaxy feels so lawless the moment you leave the core. You're not just leaving the Republic's soldiers behind, you're leaving its money behind. So understand what the credit really is. It isn't wealth. It's a story the core worlds tell themselves, and everyone on the edge of the galaxy already knows how that story ends. So if the credit is just a promise, somebody has to be standing behind it. That somebody is the InterGalactic Banking Clan, and here's what makes them terrifying. They're not a government. They have no people to protect, no homeworld to defend, no ideology at all. They're a bank, and during the Clone Wars, they were a bank with their own army and their own navy. The Banking Clan operated out of Scipio, a frozen vault world where the galaxy's physical wealth was stored behind blast doors, run by cold Muun financiers like Sandhill. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Every side borrowed from them. The Republic borrowed to grow its clones. The Separatists borrowed to stamp out their droids. The same institution funded both armies in the same war at interest guaranteed to win no matter which side lost. War, to the Banking Clan, was not a tragedy. It was the single most profitable product ever invented. A customer base that destroys its own purchases and has to buy them all over again. And the man quietly engineering the clan's takeover from the shadows, seizing the galaxy's money the same way he seized everything else, was Darth Sidious. Think about what that means. Before a single battle of the Clone Wars was fought, the bank funding both armies and the Sith Lord orchestrating the entire war were already the same hand, on the same lever. The galaxy didn't stumble into that war. It was sold one, on credit. Now follow that money into the strangest purchase in galactic history. A clone army for the Republic. Millions of soldiers, grown on Kamino across a full decade, with cutting-edge armor, gunships, walkers, and Star Destroyers. Here's the question nobody in the Senate ever asks out loud. Who ordered it? And who paid the bill? Officially? No one knows. The order was placed years in advance, in the name of a Jedi master named Sifo-Dyas who had been dead the entire time. The Kaminoans simply kept growing soldiers, on credit, in their towers at Tapoka City, trusting that the Republic would eventually pay for an army it never voted to create. Sit with the scale of that. The most expensive military project imaginable, built quietly for 10 years, on an invoice no government ever signed. And when the Republic suddenly discovered this perfect, ready-made army at the exact moment a war conveniently broke out, The galaxy was so relieved to have it that nobody stopped to do the math. That is the con, laid bare. You don't need to win a vote to fund an army. You just need to manufacture the emergency that makes everyone beg you for one. The clones were never a lucky break. They were a prepaid weapon, ordered in secret a decade early, and the receipt led straight back to the same Sith who already owned the bank. Before there were Star Destroyers, the galaxy's real superpowers weren't planets at all. They were corporations. The Trade Federation controlled the shipping lanes. And here's what makes that so dangerous. Whoever controls the trade routes controls who eats, who builds, and who starves. The Federation got so obscenely rich moving the galaxy's goods that it did something no company should ever be able to do. It built a military. Those droid armies blockading Naboo weren't a nation's soldiers. They were a corporation's private security, scaled up into an invasion fleet, deployed against a sovereign world over a tax dispute. Read that again. A disagreement about taxes escalated into the invasion of a planet because the company had simply grown bigger than the law that was supposed to govern it. And the Federation wasn't alone. The Techno Union, the Commerce Guild, the Corporate Alliance, the Banking Clan. These were all businesses with their own fleets, their own droid armies, and their own seats in the Senate, voting on the very regulations meant to restrain them. So when the separatist crisis hits, and everyone's giving speeches about freedom and independence, look past the words. The separatist movement, at its core, was the galaxy's largest corporations deciding they would rather own the government outright than keep paying its taxes. It was the biggest hostile takeover in history, and it came with a flag, an anthem, and an army. Which brings us to the most expensive object ever built, and the single purchase that breaks the entire empire. The Death Star. Economists in the real world actually ran these numbers, and the steel alone, scaled up to a station that size, cost well over 100,000 times the entire economic output of planet Earth. Now build that in total secrecy, hiding it from your own Senate. Then, after the first one is destroyed by a single starfighter, build it again, even bigger. Here's what makes that financially insane. A weapon is supposed to protect the things that generate your wealth. Your worlds, your factories, your trade lanes, your taxpayers. The Death Star did the exact opposite. It devoured wealth on a scale no economy in history could sustain. It produced absolutely nothing in return, and its entire purpose was to destroy planets, which are the only things in the galaxy that actually make money. When Tarkin gives the order and Alderaan vanishes, that isn't just a war crime. It is the Empire vaporizing a wealthy, peaceful, productive, tax-paying world to make a single point about fear. And you cannot tax a debris field. You cannot draft soldiers from rubble. You cannot ship goods through a graveyard. The Empire built the most powerful weapon in the history of the galaxy, and the moment it pulled the trigger, it was setting fire to its own treasury to keep warm. So how did the Empire actually pay for all of it? Here's the ugliest part of the whole story. It didn't earn the money. It took it. Palpatine dissolved the Senate, and with it the last check on imperial spending, then funded his war machine through brute extraction, crushing tariffs, seized assets, nationalized industries, and the systematic stripping of the Outer Rim for everything it was worth. Whole worlds were drained of resources and labor to feed the insatiable center. And when the credits still ran short, the Empire reached for the oldest, cheapest economy there is, slavery. Wookiees were hauled off Kashyyyk in chains and worked to death building the very stations and shipyards meant to enslave the rest of the galaxy. This is not what a healthy superpower looks like. This is a regime burning its own future to pay for the present, taxing and terrorizing its most productive worlds until those worlds have every conceivable reason to revolt. From the outside, with its endless gray fleets, the Empire looked invincible. But on the balance sheet, it was a building already on fire, and Palpatine knew it better than anyone. That is precisely why he needed a weapon so unimaginably frightening that no governor, no Moff, no admiral, no taxpayer would ever dare to open the books and ask the obvious question. Can we actually afford any of this? While the Empire quietly bled credits, the real money in the galaxy was flowing somewhere else entirely, through beings who never respected the credit in the first place. The Hutts. Here's what makes the criminal economy so powerful. It does not care who's in charge. Republic, separatist, empire, governments rise and fall, but the spice still sells, and the debts still come due. Jabba the Hutt ran a sprawling financial empire from a palace in the middle of a desert, dealing in spice, slaves, bounties, gambling, weapons, and smuggling completely outside any government's reach or taxation. Syndicates like the Hutt Cartel, Black Sun, and Crimson Dawn moved more untaxed wealth through the shadows than entire star systems produced in the light. That's exactly why one small-time smuggler's debt to Jabba becomes a galaxy-level problem that pulls in bounty hunters and Jedi alike, because the shadow economy enforces its contracts harder, faster, and far more reliably than the Empire enforces its laws. Cross the Hutts, and there's no court, no appeal, no paperwork. Just a number on your head and a galaxy full of hunters happy to collect it. So when the official currency is a polite fiction and the government is just the biggest thief in the room, the black market stops being the underworld. Quietly, inevitably, it becomes the only part of the economy that actually works. And this is the secret that reframes the entire saga. The rebellion didn't win with the Force. It won with money, or rather, by understanding the Empire's money better than the Empire understood itself. The Rebel Alliance was bankrolled in the shadows by sympathetic worlds and quiet senators like Mon Mothma, who funneled credits and resources to the cause while deliberately starving the Empire of the cooperation it needed to function. Every single world that joined a rebellion was a world that stopped paying imperial taxes and started funding the other side. 2 hits in one. And the Empire's entire strategy carried a fatal flaw written into its core. Terror is enormously expensive, and fear makes everyone want to stop paying you. The more planets Palpatine squeezed, the faster they defected. The faster they defected, the faster his impossible war machine ran out of fuel, parts, credits, and loyalty all at once. So when that single proton torpedo goes down the Death Star's thermal exhaust port, understand what really detonated in that explosion. It wasn't just a battle station. It was the final undeniable proof that an empire had spent absolutely everything it had. Every credit, every world, every last ounce of goodwill on a weapon it could never actually afford. In order to frighten a galaxy it could no longer pay to control. So here's the truth that the lightsabers and the dogfights are designed to distract you from. Star Wars isn't really a war of good against evil. It is the story of a galaxy that ran on a currency backed by nothing, propped up by a bank that funded both sides of every war, defended by corporations with private armies, and ruled in the end by an empire that mistook fear for wealth and went bankrupt building the very weapon meant to save it. Every blaster, every Star Destroyer, every clone, every Death Star traces back to a single credit, and every credit traces back to the same shadow standing quietly behind the throne. The Sith didn't conquer the galaxy with an army. They conquered it with a loan. So the next time someone tells you Star Wars is a story about the Force, hit them with the better question, the one the movies never quite answer out loud. Who paid for all of it? If this rewired how you see the whole saga, you already know what to do, and I'll see you in the next one.